Guess not.
Okay, we'll wait for you, Commissioner Smith.
I'm good, Doc.
All right. I'd like to call to order
Guess
the
not.
special meeting of the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners this Friday, June 15th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The purpose of the special meeting will be for the following: considering and acting upon the charitable relief program, including but not limited to the requisite certification form, the applications, and any other material relevant to said program. I would like to notify there is a quorum present, four commissioners at the bench, one on Zoom. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get going to work on our approval of our agenda, I'd like to make an announcement that we do have over here, as you come to into the room to the right, face coverings for anybody that wishes to use one and happen to forget it. Also, for those of you that are in the room, we do have face coverings that have been donated by the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. Sally has them in her office. If you want to stop and pick some up and take them with you to your businesses, please feel free to. They are available for distribution. Thank you. With that, first order of business will be the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, I would like to amend the agenda by removing item 4, which is the Young at Heart's request. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment of removing item 4, Young at Heart's request.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Shanefield to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that? Commissioner Lloyd.
Fast man at the
I got to
end.
get used to voice. Now we have a second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Again, for the action items, I'll read one more time, is to consider and act upon the charitable relief program, including but not limited to the requisite certification form, applications, and any other material relevant to the said program. In our process here, I think as we move through with our motions, as Ms. Marshall has them lined up by groups, I think it would be beneficial to call on each group, if they're present, to give up to no more than 2 minutes of a quick what their application for the charitable grant is. With that, I would like to turn the floor over to Ms. Marshall, our grants manager. And if there's any legal questions, we also want to include our Deputy County Attorney, Mr. John De Leon. So with that, Ms. Marshall, the floor is yours.
Sorry, got to take off my mask. Okay, I'm not used to this nice mic. So, Mr. Chairman, commissioners present and commissioner online, I'm going to provide an overview of the Community Charitable Relief Program for you all. So, on December 22nd, 2020, Sweetwater County was allocated $932,414.53 in CARES Act funding under the Community Charitable Relief Program by using population as a primary allocation metric. I point this out because it's different than the coronavirus relief grants that you recently approved. So the purpose of this program is to provide grant funding to charitable or nonprofit organizations that provided public assistance or have seen a decline in donations during the COVID-19 pandemic. All decisions regarding funding awards will be made at the local level by you, the county commission, not by the state. So originally, funding awards had to be made by December 30th, 2020, but that deadline was extended on December 27th when President Trump signed the new COVID relief package. Consequently, the deadline to accept local CCR applications was moved from December 29th, 2020 to January 6th, 2021. Sweetwater County must return any unused or unencumbered funds by March 1st, 2021. I just want to take a moment here to thank Sally Shoemaker of the Commissioner's Office and Lauren Shanefield, who during this crazy time during the holidays went above and beyond to roll out this application. So I want to clarify the types of awards under this community charitable relief program. It can be summarized as two main categories. First, there's expenditures. You will see that I've referred to them as Section 7A, Section 7B, Section 7C. These are linked to the emergency rules. It seems odd, but actually the reason for this is the federal reporting requirements. Bottom line is they are all expenditures, different reasons. Section 7A is to provide a good or service to persons impacted by COVID-19 that was of no cost to the recipient, such as food, clothing, mental health and counseling, childcare, transportation, job training, tutoring, case management, temporary housing, COVID-related cleaning, and so on. Again, this is not comprehensive. It's detailed in the rules. Under the Section 7B expenditures, it's to provide a direct payment to an individual or family to cover basic needs related to or arising from the pandemic. Examples are housing, utilities, food, clothing, childcare, and telehealth. Finally, for expenditures under Section 7C, this is to cover the nonprofit's operational costs of providing services or goods in a safe manner. So for example, that would be personal protective equipment, cleaning services, other types of equipment, plastic barriers, spaced out seating, and so on. In addition to expenditures, this program allows for the reimbursement of lost donations or other revenue under many different types of conditions, but for the nonprofit, but I'm highlighting a few. The entity or nonprofit has to be headquartered in Sweetwater County. Primary work is in Wyoming, and at least 60% of the employees are in Wyoming. Next, the organization generated less revenue between March 19th, 2019 through December 30th, 2019 than the period March 19th, 2020 through December 30th, 2020. The loss in revenue was a direct result of an interruption caused by COVID-19. And finally, it must be calculated using a formula of quote unquote qualifying gross loss to donation revenue minus any state or federal loans, grants, business interruption stipend program funds, relief funds, or mitigation program funds issued as of relief relating to COVID-19. Now, all grant requirements still need to be verified, and a grantee agreement will be executed before payments are issued. I want to note that some of these narratives and the applications did not clearly provide a link to COVID. You can't just say COVID caused everything in my life, which we all believe it has, but you have to say the directive prevented me from hosting an event because of the social distancing requirement and so on. So again, We need that narrative because this is grant funding subject to the 2 CFR 200 requirements under the Office of Management and Budget. The goal is to get applications approved, processed accordingly, and in compliance with an audit. So there could be follow-up questions. In your packet, I provided you with a summary of all the applications. So I would like to briefly go through this. Sweetwater County, originally by the deadline that was set for January 6th, received 15 applications requesting a total of $637,354.57. For the benefit of the public and the entities, I'm going to name those by their number. This is the order in which they were received by the County Commissioner's Office. Number 1, Holy Communion Ministries, requesting $31,038.37. Number 2, the YWCA of Sweetwater County, they are requesting $3,329.75. Applicant number 3 is Golden Hour, requesting $2,702. Applicant number 4, Young at Heart Community Center. Since their submission, they have withdrawn this application. Applicant number 5, the Sweetwater Events Complex Foundation, requesting $48,570.54. Application number 6, VIRS Respite Care, requesting $11,500. Application number 7 for the Food Bank, requesting $2,453.82. Application number 8, Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County Foundation, requesting $28,425. Application number 9, Union Congregation Church, United Church of Christ, requesting $1,266.02. Application number 10, Muley Fanatic Foundation, requesting $125,478. Application number 11, Green River Development Fund, requesting $93,618.32. Application 12, United Way of Southwest Wyoming, requesting $214,000. Application number 13, Boys Girls Club of Sweetwater County. The request is $51,720. Application 14, Sweetwater Climb, requesting $21,552.75. And then finally, application number 15 from the Youth Home, requesting $1,700. The total request is $637,354.57, leaving an initial balance of $295,059.96. Now, as Mr. Chairman, you pointed out, you'd like each entity to maybe summarize their application in 1 or 2 minutes. I would like to point out that following your action today, commissioners, you should consider having a second round of applications to enable other nonprofits to apply for this program. I confirmed with the governor's office, they do not want this money back, and we would like to impact the services in Sweetwater County as much as possible. So please keep that in mind. So with that, I'm available for any questions, or you can ask the entities to present their programs.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina, or Ms. Marshall, our grants manager. I would first, before we ask any questions, thank you, as well as our attorney, as well as the commissioners, Commissioner Shanefield on the front end, working with you guys when this first came out. We were scrambling, and thank golly for the new CARES Act to get approved, which extended this. Otherwise, I think we would have not had the time to truly check into the sideboards and the legalities to protect the county with every of it. I could see some mistakes, but anyhow, even though the date was extended, there was a great amount of work extended on your part, and along with everything else you're doing with all the other CARES grants, and as well as our Deputy Attorney, John De Leon, reviewing things with you, Sally Shoemaker, our Administrative Secretary, working with you guys, as well as Commissioner Shanefield. So before we move forward, I think these entities, as we move through and their grant applications get approved, I think they need to know who the people are that worked hard on them, and they need to give them a very special attaboy or thank you, and they did, and heaven knows they deserve that. So with that, Commissioners, before we move forward, is there any questions for Christina? Jeff, you're up there. Any questions? Thank you. With that, the question I have, and maybe I missed it or something, Ms. Marshall, but is there any conversation needed on the recommendations at this time to talk about them, or are we going to get into those later?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to address that right now. There are recommendations on your spreadsheet two that are immediate. Are two entities requested included projected increases in the lost donation or revenue that is ineligible, and so the recommendation has been reduced to the initial lost revenue. Second, I encourage you to verify that expenses were not regularly budgeted for ordinary and regular activities, which would also be ineligible under the program rules. And finally, I just want to point out that in the spirit of this program and to get things rolling, there are recommendations. There's 3 recommended motions. However, I want to emphasize an approved award does not equate to a debit card being issued today to spend this money. It will still go through a very rigorous process of analyzing the documentation that the county needs for its auditing purposes. And again, ultimate goal is not to have to pay this money back. And the county does have a single audit. We expend over $750,000 every year. We have actually over $7 million in federal expenditures almost every year. It's a very detailed audit, very specific, and so we will process this accordingly. And also in the motions, in the language, we reserve the right to request additional clarification or explanation. Again, I pointed out some of them. The link to COVID was not as strong as we would have liked. We believe them, but we need that documentation. The biggest issue actually in the review of the applications has been the policy on lost donation or other revenue. I mentioned in my email to you last night that I appreciated John, our Deputy County Attorney, John De Leon, bearing my venting and frustration because you can talk to the governor's office, the attorney general's office, the county commissioners association. There is not a clear guidance on processing this, which is actually pretty shocking under federal awards. Again, I caution the commission, this is not general fund money that is discretionary. It does have to pass audit requirements. And so that's why the motions are made the way they are. Yesterday, our accounting manager, Bonnie Berry, came back, and so she's being pulled in for her recommendation too on verifying that lost donation or other revenue requests. All right.
Thank you, Christina. Commissioners, questions? Jeff, Commissioner Smith, any questions? You'd mentioned something that I think on the front side I would like to, I think I have a good handle on it, but I think it might need to be mentioned is the money does not impact general fund at this time, but if an audit shows that any one of these entities received money in a fashion that was within the sideboards or rules and regulations, I believe the county is held responsible to pay that money back. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that is a fact and it is correct.
And it's so
And,
therefore,
and it exists in Wyoming where entities have had to pay back federal monies.
yeah, and so then it would impact our general funds and that type of thing. So
Mhm.
it's puts the county at a huge risk to move forward with these CARES grants. And when you think of the accountability, because if the audit shows that we have to pay back and the entity we gave the money to does not pay it back, ultimately we pay it back and then we have to work with that entity to get it back. But in the long run, if we don't get it back, or the time we have to work with that entity to get it back, it does at this point in time impact services to the rest of the county. So my hopes are, as like you said, lacking with federal rules and guidance and that type of thing possibly. And also, I think it's, in some ways, we see the same stuff coming from the state with some of this, not all, but some of the CARES stuff, and this might be one of them because it rolled out so quickly. We are taking some great risks with organizations, charitable organizations, and really counting on them that their grant requests are done well within these sideboards. And I know that you, as grants writer, and Mr. De Leon, as our attorney, have reviewed them very carefully, but not everything's perfect because we don't know what auditors think and what they're going after. So I just want everybody to know that as we move forward in this process, as important as it is for all these charitable organizations, and we believe we not only need, but we want to help. And this is some money to help. We're counting on you to make sure that, I guess, you have some protection built in case the audit shows some negative recourse, so that the county does not have to bail anybody out. That's very important, and I just want to say that. So with that, are we ready to, any more comments, commissioners, before we move on? With that, Ms. Marshall, I think we're ready to move on with the first group, and I think how we'll do this is before we do a motion to approve as you have it written for each group, because there's 3 groups, I'll go through and see if there's a representative of each one of those groups and give them a couple minutes to explain their application. If you're on Zoom or in the commissioner's room, please identify yourself and who you're with, and be patient with us. We are learning this and doing the best we can. Make sure that if you're in the commissioner's chamber, you please come up to the podium and speak into the mic, and bear with us. We'll get through this, and eventually we'll have some money authorized to some charitable organizations, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend going through in the order as presented
And
on
have
your
each of them
list.
present it and then go through the motion, Christina?
Correct. The motions are intended for the end.
For the end. Okay, very good. I will stand as recommended by Commissioner, or by our grants manager, Ms. Marshall, and we will go through the 14, 15 in order. Of course, keep in mind, number 4, Young at Hearts, is not with us. So I would ask that first up is Holy Communion Ministries, and do they have a representative here or 2? Please come forward, identify yourself, and also introduce whoever's with you and which organization you're with. Thank you.
The Reverend Stephen Davis. I am the deacon at Holy Communion Church in Rock Springs and the treasurer for Holy Communion Ministries.
Okay, hold on a sec. Can you, in the Zooms here, okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Jackie, okay, I can see you. Jeff, good. Thank you. Go ahead, Reverend.
To give you a short summary, this program,
Point of order, Reverend, would you introduce who's with
oh,
you?
I'm sorry. This is Joyce Corcoran. She's actually the main coordinator for St. Christopher's Highway.
Okay, come on up. You need, and when you speak, you need to be close to the microphone. Thank you. So go ahead. Whoever wishes to speak first.
Thank you for hearing us today. St. Christopher's Highway is a travel assistance program. We started last year, and it became immediately believable that there was a lot of problems with people who have trouble on I-80. And we designed the program for the whole Southwest Wyoming, but and it's church related. And there were some towns who didn't really want to be totally involved. So basically, it's Rock Springs and Green River doing assistance to people who are in trouble in their travels. I stand here and tell you stories for a long time about the kinds of people we've helped. Mostly they're people who live on the edge, and COVID made living on the edge even more difficult because people have been losing jobs and then migrating to someplace else. Car breakdowns, getting not enough gas money, needing lodging, needing food, needing lots of things. And there's just many stories. But I think this is an absolutely marvelous program. We have helped so many people and so many families, and it's been well, it's been a really wonderful experience for me as a retired woman to have something really meaningful to do. And I'm really thankful for Holy Communion for coming up with the idea of this program and establishing a committee. And we decided how to go about it, and we're moving along. And Steve is just a wonderful treasure. We're buddies. We work together on it all the time. I do want to tell you one little story, and it's about a guy who's here right now. And we've had him for 3 nights at Motel 8 in Rock Springs. He lost his job due to COVID in Denver, and he decided that he needed to go home to California. Well, we've bought him a bus ticket, but because of all this damn wind and everything, he's been stuck here for 3 nights, and he's kind of losing his marbles over it. But he feels that he needs to be in California where he has family and more support. That's just one story, and they go on and on. We have a absolutely wonderful resources in this community. I don't know if people realize how great it is, but I've developed a resource list for our volunteers who make these calls and help people to use to find assistance elsewhere too, besides us. So we've helped a lot of people, and Steve can give you numbers. I can't give you numbers.
In 2020, we had 100 and I think it was 21 or 31. I can't remember for sure. Calls that we answered on the cell phone, which amounted to us helping 220 people and 10 pets.
Wow.
Because people travel with their dogs. We actually, in the first year, we started April 1st of 19, and we had a couple wreck their car driving down by the gorge, and they had to get back to California, I guess it was, and they had a Great Dane with them. We were able to convince the bus company, Greyhound, that it was a service dog. Although we did have to buy a seat for it.
All
So,
right, well, wonderful.
what was I going to say?
Well,
One thing we saw, I guess, this year was late in the summer, we saw a huge spike increase, And that was just because of all the people traveling because of COVID. You know, if you've lost your job and you're trying to get back to family, you don't have money. You know, and they get halfway there and then end up falling into our arms. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Commissioners, any questions for either Ms. Cochran or Reverend Davis dealing with Holy Communion Ministries?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
thank you. I have questions about comparison from 2019 to 2020. In your application, it appears to me that this was very close to the total amount spent for 2020 during that time frame that the grant was laid out. What did those numbers look like in comparison to what you spent in 2019 for the same program?
Oh, well, I didn't even look that up. I could have. I can get that back to you if you want. I just don't have access to Quicken right here. So, but we did see an increase. Part of that may be because we became better known. But as I mentioned, all law enforcement agencies know of us, and we actually get quite a few calls from them. So,
Okay.
so sorry I can't answer that straight up, but
If over as we leave the chambers, over on the left, you'll see a little rack that has commissioners' business cards in it. If you'd please pick one up for Commissioner Shanefield and maybe write that on there as a reminder to get it back to her, please. Are you okay with that, Commissioner?
Yes, because I believe Christina, I may be wrong on this, but I believe it needs to be amount above and beyond what happened in the previous year.
Commissioner Chairman and Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Shanefield, for the expenditures, it does not.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Only for the lost revenue is what.
Okay, good.
is the comparison.
I can still provide that.
That would be
to
good. Thank
though.
you.
bet.
All right. Any other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, Chairman Wendling, can I make a comment question? I
Commissioner
think I just want to make a blanket statement real quick that, first of all, the work you guys do is pretty amazing. And I would only imagine your numbers increase this year because of the financial deficit that mostly could be probably placed on the fact of COVID. So I think the work you're doing is just marvelous and fantastic. And then I'll just say it now. I think every organization we talk to for the next 14 presentations, I just want to say all the work they do is good. Otherwise, I could probably make the same comment at the end of every presentation. So to save time, even though I do like the microphone, I do want to just thank you guys and every entity that's presenting today for the work they do. And I'll be honest, I see potentially a continued increase in your services as you become more known. And I don't see a turn in the economy now. And so what you're providing people is just is great. So thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you,
thank you.
Commissioner Lloyd. Any further questions? Commissioner Smith, did you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you, though.
Thank you. I'll zoom in on you each time because I
Ooh,
know you're up there.
that's nice of
Okay.
you. Thanks. I'm not sure we
Thank
need to
you.
do that, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Reverend, and thank you, Ms. Cochran, for that. Up next, our second applicant is the YWCA, and I believe with the YWCA is Ms. Boss and Kayla Manico. So are you Zooming or are you here? Or are you not here?
Yes, we are. We are on Zoom,
Very
and
good.
we're alternating just to be able to not have to sit with a mask on in the same room. So,
Well, you take the lead and we'll listen. Whoever wishes to take the lead.
okay. I was simply going to start with the basic information of the Y and the COVID in a few minutes. It certainly has been challenging for the Y between a childcare and a domestic violence shelter, and then adding financial classes, which could be extremely helpful, but it's very entertaining to try to do them virtually. We went from our full building of nearly 90 to 9 children in one room during the very first month of COVID, simply because that was essential workers. That was an education for our childcare when you had an infant and a third grader in the same room and you had to do school and do naps and do schedules. And then our shelter still managed to stay open. Their offices closed, but they did stay open for services. In fact, in 1 month, they saw a jump from 77 calls to over 170 calls on the crisis line. So there was definitely an increase and a change. And so we are really grateful for the funding you have offered through this grant thing, because there were losses. I'm going to let Kayla discuss the actual breakdown of the expenses. And so I'm going to switch a second so that you can hear her.
Thank you, Melinda. Kayla, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, within a couple minutes, please.
Okay, so we're actually requesting, like Christina said, $3,329.75. This is because our annual Festival of Trees event that we do is actually one of our largest fundraisers for the year. And unfortunately, we were not able to have the entire event like we normally do. We tried the best we could. So we went virtual with the event, which we then had costs with apps and different things like that. But we didn't have, because of COVID restrictions, you could not have so many people in a room, depending on the square footage of the room. So we did not have an in-person event, and that actually altered our numbers pretty significantly. Not having people at the event to actually bid on the trees. And so we still had people bid on the trees, but we did see a lower number. So that's why we're applying for this funding amount.
All right. Thank you very much, Kayla. Commissioners, any questions for either Ms. Boss or Ms. Manico?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield?
thank you. Kayla or Melinda, would you be able to explain why the project had a built-in increase? Is this based off of previous years of increase, or is this something that was new this year?
Yeah, so there is an increase because we build it into our budget from previous years. If we see an increase, then we expect to be able to bring in those funds for the next year. And so that's where the increase that you're seeing on there. It's an increase of, let's see here. I think it was like 700.
792.
Yeah, 792 was increased. That was built into our budget. So then we had our whole organizational budget focused on that, around that number.
Can I continue?
Go ahead.
Was that increase based on a percentage from an increase from the year before event?
A rough percentage.
Yeah.
Just right.
Yeah, it was a rough percentage from the event before, yes.
Can you tell us what that percentage was? And if you don't have it off the top of your head, would you just, you can email it to Sally?
Yep, I have it in here. So Melinda's looking on pulling it. If you want to give us a minute, we can get it, or I can just email it over real quick too, if you continue.
Email is fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Shanefield. Any other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
Commissioner Lloyd, you may have
can I
the
ask
floor.
Ms. Marshall a question? Okay, hey, Christina, just making sure I'm understanding the rules, because as we talked, one of the difficult parts of this process is the rules, or the discombobulation of the rules, even at the state level. So are we allowed to look, even though there could be a reason to project the increase, knowing we want to protect ourselves and protect the entities receiving money? It was kind of my take that we probably shouldn't do increases and stay at the 2019 levels just because of the way the rules shook it out. Am I right in that perception?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Lloyd, you are correct. And I would like to state, I am in agreement with Commissioner Shanefield that it's great to look at percentages, increases, and so forth. However, I want to be very clear, according to the rules, Section 8, Item 5, you cannot use prior year percentages or income to calculate the amount. It has to be a clear comparison from the period March 19th, 2019 through December 30th, 2019 compared to the 2020 dates.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I would love to, but can't. So sorry.
That's my comment. I would love to be able to provide that extra 792 to YWCA and for the work they do, but I just want to make sure we protect them and ourselves as we make these allocations.
Along those lines, you don't know what's in the future, so keep that data because there might be another round too next year.
That's
So
what my point was, is that we may have more money to give out and they may change the rules.
Yep. Okay.
Well, and as we said here, one of the things too, and this is more for Melinda and Kayla, is, I mean, I would look at one of the nice things I think in this allocation of money that we're allowed to do is really outside of the Paycheck Protection Plan, but for really governmental entities and such, this is the first opportunity there's been a chance to actually reimburse for funding or donation loss, because no other program has covered that. And a lot of organizations have been hit by that very hard. And for example, the events complex that Candy's out here representing, they've lost really all revenue, but we still can't encompass it, but they did lose donation revenue. And I think, so as we sit here and talk, Melinda and Kayla, I would even say, and I can't remember, was bowls of sharing and before the state or after the state?
It was actually right in the middle. Fortunately, we had a lot of our bowl painting parties finished right before COVID had hit, and that's where most of our donations come in. So we didn't get to have the big event night for that either. However, we made up those funds actually online, and the community really pulled together for us, and it was great. So we didn't see a need to have to include that. So,
because if it hadn't, I was going to encourage you, if we did a second round, to put in for any of that potential lost revenue too. So, but thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah. So just to make sure I'm in the right thinking here with everybody else, it sounds as though we are trying to make these entities whole. So whatever they lost out on during this time period, we are trying to restore. Not, again, the increases like, oh, we went up 10% every year in our donations, so we're going to add 10% this year, but just 100% of what would have been expected in 2020 had it not been for COVID. Is that kind of, that's the agreement with everybody? Is that what I'm thinking anyway?
Ms. Marshall, did you hear the question?
I can, but I can't see him.
I'm hiding from you, Christina.
You're above me right now. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Smith, that is what has been one of the challenges. I think the way you summarize the concept of lost revenue is correct. To make an entity whole again, the application and verification, though, of how you derive at that is what's been the challenge. So for example, if you look at profit loss statements, does that include a lost income due to investments, for example? Or do you just compare one event from one year to the next year? That is the type of issues we are addressing, and we have to treat it consistently when we process it. So does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, thank you. That's that gets me on the right track there. So really, yeah, we're just trying to, 19 we did this much, 20 we did this much. There's a gap between. What's that gap? That's what we're trying to fill.
Very good.
And
Commissioner Smith, just to add on to it, it has to be clearly linked to COVID though.
sure.
So
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for either Christina or, YWCA?
Windling, I do have that percentage now, just quickly. So we budgeted for a 10% increase.
Thank you. Kayla? Okay, anything else with the YWCA? For our participants on the TV and our people in our room, just so we don't talk over each other, let's make sure that we ask for the floor and wait until we're recognized to take the floor, because in that way, for the people here in the room, we aren't talking over each other, for the benefit of the listeners on the screen so they can hear everything. And for us in the room, you people on the screen, if you, the protocol would be Mr. Chairman, if you want to speak, and to the commissioner, that type of thing. But wait to be recognized so we're not talking over each other. It's a senior moment for me, but to run a live meeting plus a screen, I don't react real quick. And if I don't do this right, we might have a, what do they call that? When they revolt and get a new chairman. So Anyhow, we'd like to hold off until January next year. So anyhow, moving forward, thank you very much. I believe,
Mr.
up-
Chairman?
yes, go
Point
ahead.
of order. I just, we're 45 minutes into this and we've only gone through the first two.
Yes,
And I really think that we know what all of these entities do for our community. We know how important you are. I don't think we need to hear about the services that you provide. We're really here to meet about these grants specifically. Christina is going to ensure that you qualify for the grants. But I think we need to hear exactly why you're applying for the funding, and what your needs are around that. But I don't think we probably need to keep them very short and sweet and then ask very specific questions.
no, very good. I thank you for that point of order. So as we come up more with our next ones, please, why are you applying for the grant? And specific questions will be regarded. Again, 2 minutes, please, as this is a special meeting. So with that, next up will be Golden Hour Senior Center. I believe with us on screen is the director, Jackie Grubb. Jackie, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we are requesting $2,702 under Section 7C. This is to refund us for purchasing plexiglass dividers for tables in our dining room. This will allow us to address two concerns that we have during COVID for our senior citizens. One is for food insecurity and social isolation. So social isolation in particular disproportionately affects seniors in our community, as a majority of them do live alone. So we've been pretty successful in addressing food insecurity as we're feeding a lot of seniors through curbside services, but social isolation is a huge problem for us, and we haven't been able to get them back in the building, and this will help us to do that as we can get more seniors in the building to eat food together, and that's what we're trying to address with this request.
Thank you, Jackie. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Grubb? No questions. Thank you very much. Very well done, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, since we're skipping Young at Hearts, they withdrew. Sweetwater County Events Complex Foundation. And I believe here representing them is Ms. Candy Pendleton. Welcome, Candy.
Thank you. Thanks, Chairman and Commission. My name is Candy Pendleton, representing Sweetwater Events Complex Foundation. We submitted a grant for $48,570.54. You should have itemized listing in your packets of what that included. It was cleaning supplies and extra labor to be able to keep the facility clean and open for events. We were closed down for March and April, but started back up in May with some events. So we were very, very careful with the community. We did a very thorough cleaning before events, tables, chairs, doorknobs, ATMs, restrooms. We had somebody staffed during events to do those high touch areas. And then we did a thorough cleaning before we put those materials away again for the next event. So we itemized exactly how much time it took before, during, and after specific to COVID. So this is outside of our regular operating. And the Sweetwater Events Complex Foundation paid the Sweetwater Events Complex that amount of money for those supplies and materials.
Thank you, Ms. Pendleton. Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I just want to clarify that this was not typical cleaning that you would do.
It was not typical cleaning that we would do. We bleached everything. Every surface that anybody would touch was bleached in between events.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Commissioner Shanefield. Any other comments, commissioners? Just one comment from me is I'll guarantee you, being an entity of Sweetwater County, if you guys hadn't done it right for those meetings, we would have known about it.
I am sure that is the case.
I personally heard nothing. I don't believe your liaison did. So you guys did a very good job and keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next up is our VIRS respite care. And I believe with us is Melissa Cyril. Melissa, are you online?
I am.
There you are. Welcome.
Hello. VRS Respite Care is requesting $11,500. It is due to loss of fundraising. We have been very blessed the last 3 years to have Deer Trails host Power of the Purse for us. And in the past 3 years, we have gotten at least $10,000 from that event. That event was supposed to be held April 25th. We had to move it due to not being able to have that many people in one area. And if anybody's attended Power of the Purse, you know we need those crazy women all together having fun. It was moved to October 3rd, which again, we were unable to host due to regulations. And then the other event that we hold is the cookie jar exchange. Last year was our first year. We had it on the docket for this coming year. We normally hold it during the parade, the lighted parade. We just felt like the homemade cookies were the reason why people bought the cookie jars. Although the cookie jars are beautiful, we weren't quite sure how that would go over even if we held it online. So that has been a decrease in amount of funding that we do have, which all of those go to direct services, which would be about 1,100 hours of service.
Thank you, Ms. Cyril. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Cyril with the respite?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Smith.
just a comment. Yeah, we've partnered with respite for a number of years, and it really did break our hearts this year to not be able to have that event, and tried. It's a hospice of Sweetwater County as well as respite are our two main beneficiaries. And then there's, we always pick one or two others that may be in need. And so generally we raise in the neighborhood of $65,000. And so it was a real blow this year to not be able to distribute that money. So thanks, Melissa, for applying. And we're planning on it in the spring, but we'll see how it goes this time around.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions, comments, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, once again, a question for grants, grant director, manager, wizard of grants, Christina Marshall. In this situation, we have and there it says approximately $10,000. We would need some more specific data to be able to reimburse it at the correct information. So probably what we would need from Ms. Cyril would be an exact donation amount from 2019. Am I correct?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Lloyd, that is correct. I would actually make a blanket statement that on every application, we might need some supplemental information. If you want to give me a late Christmas present, it would be to increase the size of my inbox right now, because I am getting all those nasty messages. But just to confirm or to reply to your answer, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Any other commissioners, comments? With that, we'll thank Ms. Cyril from VRS and keep moving on.
Well,
Next up
Mr.
is-
Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Commissioner Smith.
Since we're voting on this today, could I ask Melissa, do you have that number of what the donation was last year? And then we can approve that amount as opposed to just the flat 10,000? Do you know what the donation was last year?
Last year it was 10,500.
Well, excellent. Let's amend it to 10,500 so we can approve that amount this time, plus the 1,500 for the cookie jars. What did you make last year on that?
We made 1695, but in my application I put 16,000.
1,600 or 16,000?
Oh, 1,600. Sorry. I wish
Either
we
way.
made 16,000. That would have been fantastic, but 1,600.
Okay, so those are provable numbers. So I would say that we adjust that amount now to $11,100 for respite. And so we can vote on that later now that we have correct numbers, and I'm sure she'll provide us with the appropriate documentation that we may need.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I'm going to go back and have our grants manager come up so we can work through this quickly and see what we need to do, if you don't mind. Ms. Marshall?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, actually, my recommendation is stay with a higher amount so that we can vet through all the documentation. So in essence, this would be maximum awards, not to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So help me out a little bit on the VRS amount requested, 11,500. Are we increasing that, or is it staying the same? Is that what you're asking, Commissioner Smith?
So we've got 10.5 and 1,600. So yeah, we go 12,100 is what I was thinking. Did I misspeak earlier? I apologize if I did.
I'm sorry. So Commissioner Smith, you want to increase the amount not to exceed?
Yes,
And what should that amount be, Commissioner?
$12,100.
Oh, hang on a minute. Commissioner Toman.
My question is, it wouldn't be 12,000, it would be the difference between last year and this year, correct?
This year was
Mr.
zero.
Toman, yes, but I don't have the application in front of me and I'm not sure where the discrepancy came from. And because we're still finalizing policy to process these, if there is a difference, I would recommend that they reapply in a second round.
Commissioner Smith, did you hear that?
I did, yeah.
So what I'm understanding then is what's the total amount for VIRS now, Ms. Marshall?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, VIRS requested 11,500 in their application, and that is the amount that was recommended based on their request.
Okay, and then my understanding is I think this pretty well answers, there will be a second round probably, without a doubt. So are you saying that if there's anything above that 11,500 that may qualify, they reapply for that difference?
Mr. Chairman, it's unclear to me exactly why it should be increased based on the documentation that was submitted by the deadline. You do have that discretion, but I think there could be a case for all of the entities requesting lost donation of revenue. And until we communicate a clear policy of how they will be processed, I would err on the side of waiting.
Thank you. So Commissioner Smith, what I'm hearing is we leave it at the 11,500. The recommendation is to leave it at the $11,500 that's already requested, and then take a look at things as all entities will and come through with a second round of dollars. Is that correct, Ms. Marshall?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Commissioner Smith,
Um,
will that meet with your approval?
No, but
It's just a recommendation.
It's just a
yeah, I mean, having spent, you know, many days and hours with our slib board friends as we went through this with the slib money, you know, I think in this case it was unclear what we were trying to accomplish and what the rules were, and I think we still are. And so everything that I've heard today is we are trying to make whole. If you can show us your difference between 19 and 20, this grant is to make you whole. And so as I'm asking Melissa, what makes you whole? $12,100 makes them whole. So in my mind, I say, why would we not? She's going to be able to provide documentation for 12-1. Let's approve 12-1 and not make her do another application and come around and do it again. That's just my thought. I mean, this money is here for us to try to stimulate the economy, make these entities get back to the good work that they're doing. So that's my mind. And I, you know, very carefully, I don't even want to use the word cross Christina, but very carefully and thoughtfully disagree. I don't even want to say that.
No, that's okay.
I love Christina, and she's always right, and so I am carefully recommending this. But that's my thought. You know, this sounds, yes, they can prove it. They can show this documentation. That's the number. There was confusion before of what that number is. So here's our meeting. Here's our chance to take care of it. But I will defer to the group. Again, I'm one of five.
I think your point's well taken. Commissioner Shanefield has comment.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think that we have a meeting coming up on Tuesday, and if there's anything in here that we could ratify or make adjustments or changes, that's always an option. I would hate to veer off of what the documentation is that came in from these specific entities. But I'm sure they're all listening, and I think that that's always an option for us to update those all the way up through the end of, or the deadline of March 1st, right? I didn't know if it was the end or the beginning. So I think that that would be an option as well, so we can kind of do both.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, I do want to clarify, and I think I agree with Commissioner Smith that the process with the State Loan and Investment Board was one of a kind, and you had to experience it to really understand. The problem I'm having as a grants manager protecting county government is ultimately I want to avoid paying this money back and being first having findings on the audit and second returning it. I want to be very clear. You had the State Loan Investment Board approving millions upon millions and millions of applications on a blanket platform. They allowed entities to argue. I can confirm that as of today, none of our applications have been reimbursed, not $1. Their staff is going through everything with a fine tooth. I know there were hundreds of millions approved for payroll that will not ever be reimbursed. So I think there's a disconnect between approving awards and then processing them. And so that is my main reservation. I have no problem if you do want to increase this award. I think though that the opportunity should be given to others then. You're asking them to lobby. I can only make a recommendation on documentation that we received and discussion with the attorney and our accounting manager. So it's up to you.
Yes, Ms. Tolman.
Well,
Commissioner Tolman.
Mr. Chairman and Marshall, I would just like to clarify again, if they raised 10,950 and 1695 last year during that time period, and they're asking for 11,500 now, that is not a difference. It's equal. That's where my confusion is coming. So I don't see how we can ask for more when I'm not sure they're going to get any of it.
Sure.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jeff.
Any other thoughts? Every point is very well taken, as well as Commissioner Smith's and that type of thing. And I would sit here listening. If it's agreeable for the commission, I guess as chair, we probably could have had some lobbying for the other ones early. We didn't allow it. I hate to start it now because that would definitely not be the intent of the practice. I think if we've made the decision that if there's identified where there could get more money through an application process, we do have a balance of, I believe, between 295,000 to over 300,000 left. And I would definitely say continue the process. We set it out to start. I hate to alleviate. I think Commissioner Smith's right, though, that maybe they should have more money. But at the same token, I think we stay with our process, or otherwise we're going to be here till tomorrow. And tomorrow's Saturday. And not that I won't do the work for the county on Saturday. I think it's unfair to ask these applicants to hang around and continue working through the night and Saturday. So Commissioner Smith, I would encourage us as a commission to stay with how we laid it out and encourage VIRS as well as anybody else that if they feel that, hey, wait a minute, there's more that they may be entitled to, we'll open up a second round. We don't want to send this money back to the state, although that means the county's on the hook maybe for some more money, but we'll hope not. So commissioners, unless I know where Commissioner Smith is, unless I hear 2 or 3 other commissioners that would like to veer away from the recommendations, please let me know now or we move forward. I'm not.
Mr.
seeing
Chairman,
anybody. Yes,
I'm-
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We'll go with the recommendations and the applications as submitted, and I'll tell Melissa that you'll write her a $600 check. And so that'll be awesome. That'll work out well.
No, no, I don't want you to do that. You know that. We're here, we want to do it right, Commissioner, and what you're saying is right. They
No,
probably
that's
deserve
true. I
it.
was trying to make it streamlined, but yeah, we'll give them a second bite at the apple and come back around. And I mean, there's more money that's not allocated already. And yeah, let's do it that way. That's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much appreciate your patience and your understanding. Any more about regarding VIRS or for Ms. Cyril? Thank you very much. But moving forward, next up is Food Bank of South Sweetwater County. And I believe with the Food Bank is Ms. Seiler. Are you out there, Ms. Seiler?
I am.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you explain what your application's for? Quick and dirty.
Yes, just looking at my notes here. The food bank is asking for $2,453,000.82. And so what it's for is for different food purchases for the additional clients that we've had due to COVID, and also for some modifications that we had to make, and some PPE, such as gloves, masks, cleaning wipes. The modifications were parking cones and shopping bags, and then of course the additional food purchases. And so we had, just since July 1st of this year until the end of December, we've served an additional 72 families and 254 individuals. So we've also given out some additional food. Let's see, I do have that as well. I've got from July 1st through the end of December, we gave out 284,385 pounds of food. The previous year, it was 263,181 pounds.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Seiler regarding the food bank's application? With none, Commissioner Smith, any questions? All righty. Ms. Seiler, thank you. We appreciate you being on this morning and appreciate what the food bank does for Sweetwater County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, you're welcome. Up next is Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County Foundation, and I believe representing them this morning is Tiffany Marshall. Ms. Marshall, are you on screen? There you are. Welcome. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you guys for going through all the applications. My request is under section 8, number 6A, and that
We're losing you. You're breaking up, Tiffany.
Oh, of course. That's how it seems to work for me.
I know it's a network connection.
Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay, we'll try again. So our application is under section 8.6A, which is loss of revenue for a canceled event. So we host an annual golf tournament, and we canceled it this year because of COVID and wanting to ensure that we fall within the recommended guidelines of keeping everybody safe. So in the breakdown that I sent you guys, I gave you our last 3 years of what our actuals were and then what we had forecasted. Listening to your conversations today, I couldn't agree more with Christina on how fun the SLIB processes have been and how nitpicky and things are. I felt her pain along with her. So our application included a forecasted increase, which is how we got the 28,425. Based on what I've heard today, I'm assuming we'll modify that to 22,906, which was the actual revenue from our tournament last year. So I think that's probably what we would like to request.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Marshall? None here. Commissioner Smith? All righty. Thank you, Tiffany. Appreciate the foundation and what they do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Union Congregation Church, United Church of Christ, and I believe their representative is Lynn Weaver. Miss Weaver, are you out there? Miss Weaver, do you see anybody on the screen? She didn't reply back. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Up next is Muley Fanatic Foundation, and with Muley Fanatics, I know we have Josh Corsi here. Mr. Corsi, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Chairman, members of the commission, first and foremost, I also have to echo many of the things that have been said about Christina and her efforts. There's been a tremendous amount of communications with her in our office as we've been trying to understand this process, as we've gone through this with 3 other counties already, as we have chapters that have held events outside of Sweetwater County, and everyone seems to be doing it a little bit different, but I must say that this is by far the most organized. And I think if there is any direct attribute to that, it's certainly Christina. So thank you for that. This is definitely uncharted territory. Our request was submitted based off of 3 canceled events. We actually hold 4 events in Sweetwater County within our organization. Our Southwest chapter was able to actually be the last event that was held at the events complex prior to COVID. And Chairman Windling and I had communications even last spring as if that event should go forward or not. And it occurred on the very final weekend before many of these mandates were put in place. The 3 events that were specifically canceled for our efforts at this request is conducive to were the Flaming Gorge event, the Man's Face Mountain Music Festival, and then the Cowboy Christmas Ball. And so those are direct events that had a cancellation due to COVID. We submitted Christina the information that she had requested for the 2019 revenue of those events. There was no forecasted increase to those. It was simply from what was generated in 2019 and what was lost due to the cancellation in 2020. So with that, Chairman, Commissioners, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Corsi. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Corsi? None at the bench. Commissioner Smith? None for Commissioner Smith. Well, thank you.
I can't see him, so.
No, I can see him. I'm looking right at him. So, all right. Thank you, Mr. Corsi, and appreciate what you also do for the county. Up next will be the Green River Development Fund Incorporated, and their representative is Jenny Melvin. Is Jeannie out there? Or Jenny? Okay, Sally tells me she didn't reply, so we'll move on. Next up, United Way of Southwest Wyoming, Miss Kelly Frink. Is Miss Frink out there? There you are. There you are. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay. We requested $214,000 based on what I could show on the profit and loss, because we're projecting it to be much higher. There's a list of how I could compare the companies for you on how each one did. Basically, when we run a campaign, each one of these companies is like having a in-person fundraiser at that company. So they get together, and a lot of times they feed them lunch or breakfast and do prizes and all of these things. Well, because of COVID, they didn't want to gather their people together. A lot of them, minors, they're not going to be on a Zoom meeting. We did try to do a few Zoom meetings with some places. And just with the cuts, the companies had to decrease how they were supporting the campaign as well. And so when we have a good and successful campaign, it's because we were able to go out and meet with them and talk to them and bring one of our agency speakers and tell them what we're doing. And so we were able to go to almost all of these companies and do a campaign. In addition, some of these companies have in-kind donations. They might run a diaper drive with their Christmas party. So this would be in kind, but in 2019, we had over 54,000 diapers donated through diaper drives. And then in 2020, we only had 5,600. We also have banks that run diaper drives for us, and their lobbies were closed. And sometimes they get cash donations as well as actual diapers. So it's been different with each company, but that's the main thing. We have articles that show how much, COVID has impacted Soda Ash, and those are our major companies with a lot of employees that give us our largest donations. So they didn't have the meetings. Some of them pushed it out and missed one campaign year altogether because they just wanted to wait not having the office people there to conduct the campaign, having them in and out, working from home, it just really made for a poor campaign. Some of them were just mailed a pledge form with no information. We just weren't able to reach everybody. Like I said, it's like having a mini fundraiser event at each of those companies. And so it was just a struggle to get them. And some of them, because the companies are not doing well, like we don't have everybody's information in yet. It still comes in even though their campaigns are done, but they've already said because of where we're at, we can't offer a corporate match or a corporate gift this year. And so in addition to employees being down, some of them have taken pay cuts. If they've had to be furloughed, they're not feeling good about donating this year anyway. And so if there is a match, it's going down because the employee donations are down. And then some of them are just not offering it at all this year. So that's the main thing.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Ms. Frank. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Frank? No one on the bench. Commissioner Smith? Nope, none whatsoever. Well, Ms. Frank, thank you very much for explaining what your application was, and appreciate also what United Way does for Sweetwater County. Thank you. Up next is Boys and Girls Club of Sweetwater County, and to present for them will be Miss Lisa Stewart. Is Miss Stewart on?
Yep.
Well, good morning, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning. How is everyone today? Thank you. I'd like to say what others have said. Thank you for the clear help on everything and how easy this, not easy, but I'm going to say easy to be able to communicate and get our stuff in. I appreciate all that were there to make that happen. We are asking for a straight across the board loss of what our profit and loss is. I'm not sure on what you have, it's a little bit higher. It shows about an increase of about $8,000 on our profit and loss. That was due to waiting for our financials to get clearly complete, since the dollar amount that we asked for was given prior to us getting everything in. But our ask is $51,720. Basically, that is we are at a 40% decrease in members, being able to bring members in. Since COVID, literally just to the mandate, making sure that they're safe, 6 feet apart and all those things. And so that decrease due to being reimbursed for summer feeding, lack of rent from our renter, because that individual also works with children, and we didn't feel that it was right to charge them rent when they could not make dollars. And so we had a loss of rent for five months. So ours is directly COVID related, just due to the mandates and the restrictions on how many club members we can have in the building.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Commissioners, any questions for the director of Boys and Girls Club?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
I don't have any questions for the Boys and Girls Club, but I do have a question for Ms. Marshall. Looking at our charitable relief program spreadsheet that you gave us. Sorry, I mistransposed the number. Actually, I have no questions.
Oh.
I was only, for whatever reason, I kept only seeing 1,720, but then I now see the 5. So.
Oh, please get your glasses.
But still a question to Ms. Marshall about this is that gray area when we start talking about loss of revenue and stuff. The way I interpret the rules was based upon like historical donation fundraising type stuff. So with the loss of people paying for services, and would the loss of the rental income actually qualify?
Mr. Marshall.
Because that's, I don't see that as a donation as I do as lost services. And I know there's some differences in that.
Ms. Marshall, please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lloyd, with the information I know today, I think it does qualify,
Okay.
but we will be verifying it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in there, we do have a loss of all those. From some emails that I received, I was told it wasn't direct donation. It was direct loss of income. And so the direct loss of income can be seen in multiple ways, from the loss of lack of membership to the lack of donations to the lack of lease to the lack of fundraising, and just something in there that I'm sure some others, other nonprofits are probably seeing, is that in our revenue, we have a little over $50,000 of CARES funds that are restricted. So meaning we can only use it for PPE or for certain items that don't help us run our daily operations. So if we hadn't received those CARES funds, we would be at a loss of over $100,000 showing in our revenue. But it is in our revenue, but it's dramatic. It is restricted to certain things because that's how the CARES dollars were handed down to us. And I'm sure that other nonprofits have probably seen that.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Ms. Marshall, do you have a comment?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, in reviewing these requests for loss of donation or revenue, unfortunately, there is not a clear formula. For example, I think it was in these profit loss statements, and it includes loss of income from investments. Is that fair to include? So, and then I want to remind everyone that in the official rules, it does talk about looking at your qualifying gross loss to donation revenue minus any of these assistance. So there will be a lot of cleanup, and I will be updating the commission on how they are processed, and they will be consistently treated the same.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marshall. Any other questions for Ms. Stewart, commissioners? Commissioner Smith, any questions? Apparently not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. You have a great day and be safe. Up next is Sweetwater Area Climb and their director, Brittany Gray, along with the staff member, Miss Bonnie Self. Good morning, ladies.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to come and present and ask for, some support. So just big picture, I am just going to talk about the innovative training we did just briefly, and then Bonnie Self, who is my colleague who handles our government relations and finances, can speak more specifically to the line items in our requests. So with Climb, supporting single moms, with the pandemic and COVID, we had to provide laptops so the women could participate in trainings that were online. And we saw our mental health needs increase. And so you'll see that that's in our request. And then I'll hand it to Bonnie quickly. Bonnie, what else would you say about our request?
Yeah, thank you, Christina, Sally, and the commissioners for rolling this out over the holiday season. Really appreciate all your time. We had 3 line items of request. The first one, as Brittany mentioned, was for $13,771.50. You'll notice the invoices attached are a little bigger because we are a statewide organization. So we're only requesting funding for 20 laptops specifically for the Sweetwater area low-income single mothers. We had to shift, as Brittany said, to a completely adapted program. Some of it was in person done safely, but the majority has had to be done online. And we expect to continue that as we continue these important programs for these moms who are extremely vulnerable during this COVID pandemic. The laptops are free and the moms can actually keep them, and it's also helping them or their children if they're potentially learning online too. We are requesting $3,781.25 for mental health support in December. As all of us know, this has been a huge mental health challenge for so many people. And this is a contractor. We contract with a very specific mental health licensed individual who is just working with moms in Sweetwater. So that's just December pay. And then, Christina, I'd love your input on this. We did request $4,000 of our December payroll under section 7A. So we didn't consider this so much an operational cost, so much as the time that our staff spend on case management and advocacy We had to help moms get connected to food stamps. We had to help them get their stimulus checks. We had to help them navigate daycare when they're their sole provider for their child. So that is the one line item that I realize fiscal responsibility and accountability is so important to us. That was an estimate, about a third of our December pay. So I would appreciate, we went back and forth this week. I know Christina and I by email, but didn't have a chance to connect. If there's any concern about the salary request of $4,000, we are comfortable withdrawing that portion because as you talked about, this is CARES Act funding and there's a lot of regulations that we're kind of learning about as we go. And we'd appreciate any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Self. Thank you, Ms. Gray. Christina, I heard in there the presentation that dealing with the salaries, if there was thought of any withdrawal, would you like to comment on that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we will be requesting documentation for time and attendance spent specific to the activity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, Commissioners, any questions for the representatives of Climate Wyoming? None at the bench? How about our Zooming commissioner? Nothing on screen from Commissioner Smith. Very good. Thank you, Brittany and Bonnie. We appreciate the work you're doing in Sweetwater County. Please be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Chairman, I just wanted to add, we recently just completed a CNA training in December, and over 90% of our women are already working or have job offers. So I just wanted to give that update and thanks for the support and continue to serve these moms. So thank you.
That's great information. Thank you for sharing that with us, Brittany, and
Great work.
Congratulations to your organization as well as especially those moms. Commissioner Smith, did you have something to say?
Great work. Awesome
Great
job.
work.
And we're employing some of those ourselves. So thank you for sending them our way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Smith, for your organization supporting that program. It's very important, as all of them are in Sweetwater County. Okay, going on. Our last one, youth home. Is Mr. Thorne out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning, David. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. What I'll just briefly go over mine. There's not a lot of involved in it, but the two main things that I was looking at in our request has been for PPE supplies, additional gloves, masks. We had to, once our residents that were with us returned to in-person schooling, that type of thing, we incurred quite a bit of additional expense with getting materials to make a large number of cloth masks for the residents to wear because we had them exchange them every day. And so we had to get quite a bit of expense there. Plus we've had a lot of purchase for disposable masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, the wipes, all of those kinds of things. And then the other part of our request was for a reimbursement in some expense for Christmas with our residents. In the past, the youth home has been able to access quite a few donations from the community coming forward and providing gifts for the residents at the youth home. And the youth home actually doesn't incur a large expense for Christmas for our residents that are with us during that time. This past year, though, the donations were very minimal, and the youth home did incur the largest expense for providing for our residents. So they had Christmas gifts, that type of thing, since the ones that were with us over that time period. And that was the other part of our request.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Commissioners, any questions? Looking down the table, no questions. Commissioner Smith, any questions? Thank you very much. I have one, Mr. Thorne. And is this for both the Rock Springs and Green River youth homes?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. If no further questions, thank you, Mr. Thorne. Thank you for your application and appreciate what you do. So
thank you.
With that, Commissioner, overall, any questions regarding any one of the applicants before we move forward? I see no questions. With that, Ms. Marshall, I believe it's time for us to take action. And one of the things that we've been hesitant to do, and you can tell me how you would like it handled, is I did not hear, one of the things I'd like to do is I didn't hear consistently the amount of dollars that we're going to approve for each one, or being recommended for each one. So would it be appropriate that through the motion, we read each one and how much money for each one? Is that appropriate?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, what I propose doing is reading through the recommendations and then you following the motions as written.
Wonderful. I knew
Would
you'd
that help you out?
I knew you'd get us on track. Thank you, Christina. So with that in mind, I would first ask that Ms. Marshall read the recommendations of for each grant, please.
Okay, here we go. For applicant number 1, Holy Communion Ministries, the recommendation is $31,038.37 in full. That applicant number 2, YWC of Sweetwater County, the recommendation is award in full, to award excluding the projected increase. So it's reduced to $2,537.75. Applicant number 3, Golden Hour, the recommendation is an award in full for $2,702. Applicant number 4 was withdrawn. Applicant number 5, Sweetwater Events Complex Foundation. The recommendation is award in full for $48,570.54. Applicant number 6, VIRS Respite Care. The recommendation is to award the full request of $11,500. Although it's noted that there might be part 2. Applicant number 7, Food Bank. The recommendation is an award in full for $2,453.82. Applicant number 8, Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County Foundation. The recommendation is a reduction due to the projected increase. So the recommendation is $22,906. Applicant number 9, Union Congregation Church, United Church of Christ. The recommendation is award in full for $1,266.02. Applicant number 10, Muley Fanatic Foundation. The recommendation is award in full for $125,478. Applicant number 11, Green River Development Fund. The recommendation is award in full for $93,618.32. Applicant number 12, United Way of Southwest Wyoming. The recommendation is award in full for $214,000. Applicant number 13, Boys Girls Club of Sweetwater County. The recommendation is award in full for $51,720. Applicant 14, Sweetwater Area Climb. The recommendation is award in full for $21,552.75. Applicant number 15, the youth home was split in 2 because of the 2 types of cost categories. So the first one, 15.1, is for the PPE and cleaning supplies. That recommendation is award in full for $700. And then 15.2 was for the lost donation or other revenue. Recommendation is award in full for $1,000. The total recommendations are $631,043.57, leaving an available balance if the commission so chooses to distribute an additional $301,370.96 through a second round of requests. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm available for any other questions.
Thank you. Any final questions for our grants manager, Christina Marshall, commissioners? The bench has none. Commissioner Smith? shaking his head. Thank you, Commissioner. With that, I would entertain a motion for recommendation number 1.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I will make a motion to approve charitable expenditures for applications number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 14, and 15.1, contingent upon documentary verification of compliance with the emergency rules for the Community Charitable Relief Program as determined by Sweetwater County.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tolman. Any further discussion, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
I need to get a point of clarification from Attorney De Leon. On number 9, the Union Congregational Church request, I need to ask if I should recuse myself from that vote. I'm an active member of that congregation, and I do fill the pulpit as a lay pastor 3 to 5 times a year. So I just think I should abstain from voting as per number 9. Would you agree, Mr. De Leon?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I think that's a valid position to take.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You got that, Commissioner Lloyd? All right. With that in mind, after that discussion, any further discussion? Commissioner Smith? Okay.
In good
with
shape,
that,
thank
we
you.
have a motion. Huh? Go ahead.
No comments. I'm in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. With that, all those in favor saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Abstention.
I would. Yes,
Let
me.
the record show that the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you, commissioners. Commissioners, regarding recommendation number 2, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
I'd like to move to approve lost donations or other revenues for applications number 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15.2, contingent upon documentary verification of compliance with the emergency rules for the Community Charitable Relief Program as determined by Sweetwater County.
We have a motion to approve the second recommended group. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. With regard to recommendation number 3, commissioners, your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I'll make a motion to approve lost donations and other revenue for applications 2 and 8 in the amounts that exclude projected increases and contingent upon documentary verification of compliance with the emergency rules for the Community Charitable Relief Program as determined by Sweetwater County.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion, commissioners? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. With that, I would like to just mention it. I would like to instruct our liaison with grants, Commissioner Shanefield, if she would please work with Ms. Marshall and have a conversation with her and Mr. De Leon regarding a second round. And if it's not, everything's under the gun, I apologize. But with everything under the gun the way it is, maybe by Tuesday through commissioners' reports, you might be able to make an announcement if and when and what the guidelines will be for a second round. Not that you already have enough on your plate, but we don't want to send any of this money back to the state. With that, I want to thank all the applicants for the work they did putting in for these grants. And again, one more time, I want to especially acknowledge and thank the staff, Ms. Marshall, our grants manager, Commissioner Shanefield, who's the liaison, working very close, Mr. De Leon, our deputy county attorney, Miss Sally Shoemaker with the secretary, administrative secretary for the commissioners, as well as the clerk's office and anybody else that has been involved that I haven't mentioned to make this round successful. And with that, can we stay on the Zoom and keep Commissioner Smith on? Please, I just have something I want to give each of the commissioners. Thank you. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved
So
by
moved.
Commissioner Toman, second. Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.